The engagement ring felt like a shackle on Arielle Thompson's finger as she stood in the Han family's private lounge, surrounded by men in expensive suits who spoke in hushed Korean about territories and debts. Her fiancé, Min Jae, smiled for the cameras outside. But inside this room, his uncle Joon-Seok watched her with dark eyes that seemed to see every secret she was trying to hide. And when their eyes met across the room, she realized the most dangerous thing in Seoul wasn't the underground empire she'd stumbled into. It was the way her heart stuttered when he looked at her like she was something worth protecting. If you love stories where forbidden attraction meets dangerous secrets, stay with me until the end, because what happens between Arielle and Joon-Seok will leave you breathless. Don't forget to like and subscribe, so you never miss these emotional roller coasters. The thing about running from your past, Arielle had learned, was that you usually ran straight into something worse. She pressed her palm against the tinted window of the black Mercedes as it glided through Seoul's Gangnam district, watching neon signs blur into streams of color. 3 months ago, she'd been a rising star at a Manhattan gallery. Now she was engaged to a man she'd met twice, relocating to a country where she didn't speak the language, all because one forged painting had destroyed everything she'd built. "We are arriving, Miss Thompson," the driver said in careful English. The car pulled up to a building that stretched into the night sky, all glass and steel and money. The Han Group headquarters, her new reality. Arielle stepped out, her heels clicking against marble as she entered the lobby. The security guard nodded without checking identification. They were expecting her. Everything about this arrangement had been orchestrated with unsettling precision. The elevator climbed to the 42nd floor in silence. When the doors opened, she found herself in a reception area where traditional Korean artwork hung beside contemporary pieces, east meeting west in careful balance. A young woman in a crisp suit greeted her with a bow. "Miss Thompson, welcome. Mr. Han Min Jae is waiting in the conference room." Her fiancé. The word still felt foreign. The woman led her down a corridor where the city lights sparkled through floor-length windows. No, she caught herself. She'd promised to avoid those cliché observations. Focus on what matters. Min Jae stood when she entered, and Arielle had to admit he photographed well. 32, tailored suit, the kind of smile that had probably charmed investors and socialites alike. But his eyes were tired, and when the assistant left, his smile faded. "You look exhausted," he said, gesturing to a chair. "The flight was long." 14 hours. Arielle sat, keeping her spine straight. "I've had shorter. I appreciate you coming." Min Jae poured water from a crystal pitcher, his movements precise. "I know this situation is unusual." "That's a diplomatic way to describe it." He laughed, and it sounded genuine. "My father believes in efficient solutions. Your foundation needed a partnership to survive the scandal. Our company needs international credibility in the art acquisition sector. Marriage satisfies both requirements." At least he was honest. Arielle accepted the water glass, studying him. "And you're comfortable with this arrangement?" "Comfortable?" Min Jae sat across from her, loosening his tie. "No, but I'm pragmatic. You're intelligent, accomplished, and from what I've researched, the scandal that destroyed your career was built on fabricated evidence." Her fingers tightened on the glass. "You investigated me?" "Thoroughly." He met her eyes without apology. "Just as I assume you investigated my family." She had. The Han Group controlled luxury hotels across Asia, with rumored investments in sectors the public reports didn't mention: real estate, entertainment, private, security. The kind of diversified empire that raised questions. "I found enough to know this isn't a simple business merger," Arielle said carefully. Min Jae's expression shifted, something harder entering his eyes. No, it's not. But that's a conversation for when you've settled in. Tonight, I wanted to meet face to face before the announcement tomorrow. The engagement announcement? Yes. He pulled a small box from his jacket. Inside, a diamond caught the light, surrounded by smaller stones in a platinum setting. Beautiful. Impersonal. We'll make it public tomorrow evening. The press will be there, family and business partners. You'll need to smile and look happy. Arielle took the ring, slipping it onto her finger. Perfect fit, of course it was. And after that? We maintain appearances, attend events together, eventually marry in a ceremony that will be photographed for every society magazine in Korea. Min Jae stood walking to the window. But in private, we can be honest. This is a contract, not a love story. The bluntness should have been reassuring. Instead, it made her feel hollow. I have one question, Arielle said. Why me specifically? There must be dozens of art professionals who could fill this role. Min Jae turned, and for a moment, something like regret crossed his face. Because you were desperate enough to say yes? The truth landed like a slap. Before Arielle could respond, the conference room door opened. Min Jae, we need to discuss the contracts before. The man who entered stopped mid-sentence, his gaze landing on Arielle. She felt the air change. He was older than Min Jae, maybe 40, with the same sharp bone structure but harder edges. His suit was charcoal, perfectly tailored, and his dark hair was swept back from a face that gave away nothing. But his eyes, they were different from Min Jae's calculated charm. These eyes weighed and measured, missing nothing. Uncle, Min Jae said, I didn't expect you back until tomorrow. The meeting in Busan finished early. The man's voice was deep, controlled, with barely accented English. His gaze hadn't left Arielle. You must be Miss Thompson. She stood, extending her hand. Arielle, please. His handshake was brief and professional, but she felt the calluses on his palm, not the hands of a businessman who only signed papers. Han Joon-Seok, he said, Min Jae's uncle and CFO of Han Group. Among other responsibilities, Min Jae added with a slight edge to his voice. Joon-Seok released her hand, stepping back. Welcome to Seoul. I hope the transition won't be too difficult. There was something in the way he said it, as if he knew exactly how difficult it would be. Arielle felt exposed under his scrutiny, like he could see past the professional mask to the desperation underneath. I adapt quickly, she said. I'm sure you do. Joon-Seok turned to Min Jae. The contracts can wait until tomorrow. You should let Miss Thompson rest. Wasn't a suggestion. Min Jae's jaw tightened, but he nodded. Of course. I've arranged an apartment for you in Hanam-dong. The driver will take you. Arielle recognized a dismissal. She gathered her bag, pausing at the door. Thank you for your honesty tonight. Min Jae's smile returned, but it didn't reach his eyes. We'll speak tomorrow before the announcement. In the elevator, Arielle let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. The ring felt heavy on her finger. Through the closing doors, she caught a glimpse of Joon-Seok watching her, his expression unreadable. Something told her he was going to be a problem. The apartment was beautiful in the way expensive things often were, sterile and perfectly designed, floor to ceiling. No. She stopped herself again. Large windows, a view of the Han River, furniture that looked untouched. Arielle dropped her bags and went straight to the window, pressing her forehead against the cool glass. Below, Seoul pulsed with life, millions of people living their normal existences, while she stood in a gilded cage of her own making. Her phone buzzed. A message from her former mentor in New York. "I heard you took the Han offer. Be careful, Arielle. That family has connections you don't want to examine too closely." Too late, she thought. She was already wearing the ring. Sleep didn't come easily. Arielle lay in the unfamiliar bed, watching shadows move across the ceiling, thinking about Min-jae's tired eyes and Joon-Seok's measuring gaze. Somewhere in this city, decisions were being made about her future, and she was the only one not in the room where it happened. Her phone lit up at 2 a.m. Unknown number. "Don't drink anything tomorrow that you didn't pour yourself." Arielle sat up, heart racing. She typed back, "Who is this?" No response. She barely slept after that. The next day arrived with all the inevitability of a storm. A stylist appeared at 9, transforming Arielle's appearance with the efficiency of someone who'd done this countless times. The dress they'd chosen was elegant. A deep emerald that complemented her skin tone. Conservative enough for Korean standards, but striking enough for photographs. "Beautiful," the stylist said in halting English. "Mr. Han will be very pleased." Which Mr. Han? Arielle wondered, but didn't ask. The car came at 6. A different driver, older, with scars on his knuckles. He caught her looking and smiled. "Don't worry, miss. I am a very good driver." That wasn't what worried her. The venue was a hotel, naturally, one of the Han Group's flagships in Gangnam. Arielle was led through a private entrance, away from the gathering press, into a preparation room where Min-jae waited with his family. An older man in a wheelchair sat near the window, oxygen tubes in his nose. His eyes were sharp despite his frail body. Min-jae's father, she realized. The patriarch. "So you're the American," he said in English, his voice raspy. "Come closer." Arielle approached, aware of every eye on her. The old man studied her with the same intensity his nephew, Joon-Seok, had shown. And she wondered if it was a family trait. "You're older than I expected," he said finally. "And you don't smile enough." "I smile when I have reason to," Arielle replied. Something like approval flickered in his expression. "Good. Fake smiles are useless. But tonight, you'll need to perform. Can you do that?" "I've survived worse than a press conference." "Have you?" The old man leaned back. "We'll see." A woman in her 50s approached, elegant in traditional hanbok. "Father, don't exhaust yourself." She turned to Arielle with a smile that was all politeness and no warmth. "I'm Min-jae's mother, Yoon Haiwan. Welcome to the family." The way she said family made it sound like a prison sentence. More relatives filtered in, each introduction blurring into the next. Then Joon-Seok entered, and the room's energy shifted. People deferred. To him in subtle ways, a slight bow here, a step back there. Min-jae's father even straightened in his wheelchair. Joon-Seok's eyes found Arielle immediately. He wore a different suit today, dark blue, but the same unreadable expression. He crossed to her while others watched. "Did you sleep well?" he asked, his voice low enough that others couldn't hear. She thought of the cryptic text message. As well as could be expected. "And this morning? Breakfast?" "I wasn't hungry." Something in his expression eased, so slight she almost missed it. "Good." Before she could ask what he meant, Min-jae appeared at her side, taking her hand. "Ready?" "No," she thought, but she nodded. The press conference was a blur of camera flashes and questions in Korean. Min-jae stood close, his hand warm on her lower back, playing the attentive fiancé. Arielle smiled on cue, letting him answer most questions, adding brief comments when prompted. "Miss Thompson, how did you and Mr. Han meet? Did you, and..." "Through a professional partnership," she said smoothly. Art brought us together. Will you continue your career after marriage? Absolutely. My work is important to me. Mr. Han, is it true your engagement happened very quickly? Min Jae's smile never wavered. When you know, you know. Lies built on lies, Arielle thought. But everyone in this room was complicit, trading in the currency of appearances. She caught Joon-Seok watching from the side, his expression dark. When their eyes met, he didn't look away, and neither did she. The moment stretched, charged with something she couldn't name, until Min Jae's hand tightened on her waist and she broke the connection. The reception afterward was worse. Business partners congratulated them with sharp eyes that calculated advantages. Society figures air-kissed and made notes for gossip. Arielle's face hurt from smiling. She escaped to the balcony under the guise of needing air. The Seoul night sprawled below, beautiful and alien. She gripped the railing, letting the mask fall for just a moment. You're good at pretending. Arielle didn't startle, though she hadn't heard him approach. Joon-Seok stood a careful distance away, hands in his pockets. I've had practice, she said. The scandal in New York, it wasn't your fault. You investigated me too? Thoroughly. He moved to the railing, not looking at her. The painting was authenticated before you ever saw it. Someone switched it after your verification, then made sure you took the fall. Arielle's breath caught. How do you know that? Because I know how these schemes work. Joon-Seok's voice was matter-of-fact. Someone wanted to destroy your credibility specifically. The question is why. And you think it's connected to this engagement. I think very little in your life right now is coincidence. He finally turned to her, and the intensity in his gaze made her pulse quicken. How much did they tell you about what this marriage actually entails? A business partnership, international credibility for the Han Group's art acquisitions. That's the public story. Joon-Seok moved closer, his voice dropping. The truth is more complicated. Then tell me the truth. For a moment she thought he would. His eyes searched hers, and she saw conflict there, some internal war being fought. Then his expression shuddered. Not here. Not yet. He glanced back at the reception. But Arielle, if something feels wrong, trust your instincts. And that message this morning, about not drinking anything you didn't pour yourself? Her eyes widened. That was you? There are people who don't want this engagement to succeed. Some will use subtle methods. He straightened, stepping back into his mask of control. Be careful what you consume. Food, drink, information. Trust no one completely. Does that include you? Joon-Seok's smile was dark, almost sad. Especially me. He left her on the balcony, and Arielle stood, there shaking, though not from the cold. Want to know what dangerous secrets the Han family is hiding? Keep listening. The next week passed in a carefully orchestrated performance. Arielle attended events on Min Jae's arm, smiled for cameras, gave interviews about their whirlwind romance. In private, they barely spoke beyond logistical necessities. But she saw Joon-Seok everywhere. At family dinners, sitting across from her with those dark, knowing eyes. At company events, watching from corners. Once, at 3 a.m, she'd looked out her apartment window and seen a black car parked below, and she'd known somehow that he was inside. The next morning, she'd received another text from his unknown number. Someone accessed your apartment building's security footage, changed your door code. She'd changed it immediately, then spent an hour wondering who had tried to breach her space and why. 2 weeks after the engagement announcement, Min-jae called her to the Han Group building. Evening had fallen, and the office was nearly empty when she arrived. He waited in the same conference room where they'd first met, but the easy charm was gone. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. "We need to talk," he said without preamble. "Really talk." Arielle sat wary. About? About why you're actually here. Min-jae poured himself a drink, something amber and expensive. "I told you this was about business credibility. That was partially true. And the rest?" He drained the glass. "My father built an empire through legitimate means, and several that weren't. The Han Group has investments in industries that operate in gray areas, security firms that are really private militaries, entertainment companies that launder money, real estate that serves as collateral for debts you don't want to examine." Arielle's mouth went dry. "You're telling me I'm engaged to a crime family?" "We prefer to think of it as a diversified portfolio." Min-jae's laugh was bitter. "But yes, essentially. And 3 months ago, we had a problem. A rival organization in Busan started moving into Seoul, trying to take territory we've controlled for 20 years, the kind of conflict that could turn bloody very quickly." "What does this have to do with me?" "The rival organization is run by a man named Park Dong-min. He has connections to international art smuggling, among other ventures. Your engagement to me, your expertise in art authentication, it sends a message that we're expanding into his territory with legitimate backing." Min-jae met her eyes. "You're not just a fiancé, Arielle. You're a declaration of war." The room tilted. She gripped the chair arms. "You used me as a weapon." "My father did. I only learned the full scope recently." He looked genuinely regretful. "I'm sorry. If I'd known when we started this." "You would have done it anyway," Arielle finished, standing. "Because that's what you people do. Use whoever you need to maintain power." She headed for the door, but Min-jae's voice stopped her. "If you try to leave now, they'll kill you." She turned slowly. "Excuse me?" "Park Dong-min's people. You know too much, and your presence here has already provoked a response. 2 of our warehouses were hit last week. A shipment of artifacts was stolen. They're escalating." Min-jae's voice was flat, resigned. "The only thing keeping you safe is the assumption that you're valuable to us. If you run, you become a loose end." Arielle wanted to scream. Instead, she forced herself to think. "Then I need protection. You have it. More than you realize." "What does that mean?" Min-jae hesitated. "My uncle has taken a personal interest in your security. Joon-Seok doesn't do that lightly." Her heart stuttered at the name. Why would he care about protecting me? "That's a question I've been asking myself." Min-jae studied her with new intensity. "Be careful there, Arielle. My uncle is the most dangerous man in this family. And not because he's cruel. Because when he cares about something, he'll burn everything else down to keep it safe." She left the building in a daze, stepping into the Seoul night with new eyes. Every shadow could hide a threat. Every stranger could be an enemy. The ring on her finger wasn't a symbol of engagement anymore. It was a target. Her phone buzzed as she reached the street. "Don't go home. Car waiting at the corner, blue sedan. Get in." This time, she didn't question the unknown number. She walked to the corner and found the blue sedan, engine running. The back door opened. Joon-Seok sat inside, and his eyes were storm dark. "Get in," he said. "We need to talk, and your apartment is being watched." Every instinct screamed danger. But Arielle thought of Min-jae's warning about loose ends and Park Dong-min's people. She got in. The car moved before her door fully closed. Where are we going? She asked. Somewhere safe. Joon-Seok didn't look at her, his jaw tight. Min-jae told you. About the territory war? About me being a pawn? Yes, he told me. Then you understand the situation. I understand I was manipulated into a situation that could get me killed. Arielle's voice shook with fury. I understand your family used my destroyed career as leverage to drag me into organized crime. I understand nothing about my life is real anymore. Joon-Seok finally looked at her, and the intensity made her breath catch. Your anger is real. Your fear is real. And what I'm about to do is very, very real. What are you talking about? The car pulled into an underground garage. Joon-Seok waited until they were parked in the shadows before speaking again. I'm going to give you a choice, he said. Stay in this arrangement, marry Min-jae, become part of the Han family's armor against Park Dong-min. You'll be protected, wealthy, and trapped. Or I help you disappear. New identity, new country, enough money to start over. His voice was carefully controlled. But you'll never be able to come back. Never reclaim your real name or career. You'll spend the rest of your life looking over your shoulder. Arielle stared at him. Why would you help me escape? Because you deserve a choice. Something you haven't had since this started. That's not an answer. Joon-Seok's control cracked just slightly. Because when I look at you, I see someone who's about to lose themselves to survive. And I know exactly what that costs. The confession hung between them, electric and dangerous. What did you lose? Arielle whispered. Everything that mattered. His eyes held ghosts. I was engaged once, years ago, to a woman I loved. My father deemed her unacceptable, bad for business, a distraction from family obligations. He gave me the same choice I'm giving you. Her or the empire. You chose the empire. I chose survival. She died 6 months later in an accident that was too convenient to be coincidence. Joon-Seok's voice was ice over rage. I've spent 15 years becoming the weapon my father wanted, and I will not watch him do the same thing to someone else. Arielle couldn't breathe. If you help me escape, what happens to you? That's not your concern. Like hell it's not. She turned in her seat, facing him fully. You're offering to betray your family for someone you barely know. There will be consequences. I can handle consequences. Can you handle being the reason this territory war escalates? Because if I disappear, Park Dong-min will see it as weakness. People will die. Joon-Seok's expression went carefully blank. You've thought about this strategically. I'm trapped in a chess game. I have to think like a player. Arielle's mind raced. If I stay, if I go through with the marriage, what's the end game? Does this territory war ever actually end? Wars like this end when one side surrenders or is destroyed. Or when they find a different solution. An idea formed. Dangerous. And possibly brilliant. What if instead of being a passive symbol, I become an active player? I'm an art expert. If Park Dong-min is involved in smuggling, I could help expose his network, give you leverage for negotiation instead of violence. Joon-Seok studied her like she was a puzzle he couldn't solve. That would put you directly in danger. I'm already in danger. At least this way, I have some control. You would do this willingly? If it means not spending my life running and not being a helpless pawn? Yes. Arielle met his eyes. But I need something in return. Name it. The truth. About everything. The Han family's operations, Park Dong-min's network, what my original scandal was really about. If I'm going to play this game, I need to see the whole board. Joon-Seok was quiet for a long moment. Then he reached into his jacket and pulled out a flash drive. "Everything I know is on here," he said. "Financial records, shipping manifests, surveillance reports. Enough to understand exactly how deep this goes." Arielle took it, the small drive heavy with implication. "And you're just giving this to me?" "I'm giving you the choice I never had. What you do with that information determines everything." His voice dropped, rough with something that sounded like hope. "But know this, Arielle. Whatever you decide, whoever you choose to become in this situation, I will make sure you survive it." "Why?" The question escaped before she could stop it. "Why do you care so much?" Joon-Seok reached out, his hand hovering near her face, but not quite touching. The almost contact was more intimate than any embrace. "Because you walked into that engagement announcement looking like you were going to a funeral," he said quietly. "Because you have fire in you that this family will try to extinguish. Because when I look at you, I don't see a weapon or a tool or a convenient solution." His hand dropped. "I see someone worth saving." The air between them was charged, dangerous. Arielle knew she should pull away, put distance between them. Instead, she heard herself whisper, "What if I don't want to be saved? What if I want to fight?" Joon-Seok's smile was dark and approving. "Then I'll teach you how to win." What happens when Arielle discovers the truth on that flash drive? Stay with me. Arielle spent that night in a safe house Joon-Seok owned, a modest apartment in Itaewon that looked nothing like the luxury she'd been surrounded by since arriving in Seoul. The windows had reinforced glass, she noticed. The door had 3 separate locks. She plugged the flash drive into her laptop and started reading. By dawn, she understood exactly what kind of empire the Han family controlled. The legitimate businesses were impressive enough, including hotels and real estate developments across Asia. But underneath ran a network that made her stomach turn. Money laundering through art acquisitions, exactly as she'd suspected. Security contracts with warlords in Southeast Asia. Protection rackets disguised as consulting fees. The Han Group didn't just operate in gray areas. They owned them. And Park Dong-min's organization was worse. His files detailed human trafficking routes hidden in shipping manifests, drug distribution networks, and an art smuggling operation that moved stolen cultural artifacts worth millions. Arielle's expertise suddenly made terrible sense. The Han family wanted to legitimize their art dealings while simultaneously having someone who could identify and disrupt Park's smuggling. She was a weapon aimed at their enemy, just as Min Jai had said. But the file that made her hands shake was labeled with her own name. Inside, she found the truth about her scandal. The forged painting had been planted deliberately, switched after her authentication by an art handler who'd received payment from a shell company. That company traces back to Park Dong-min. He'd destroyed her career 6 months before the Han. Family approached her, making her desperate enough to accept any offer. They'd all been playing a long game, and she was the prize. Her phone rang as morning light filtered through the blinds. Joon-Seok's voice was rough, like he hadn't slept either. "Did you read it?" "All of it." Arielle's voice was surprisingly steady. "Park Dong-min destroyed my life to make me vulnerable. Your family took advantage of that vulnerability. And now you're all surprised that I'm angry?" "I'm not surprised. I'd be concerned if you weren't." A pause. "What do you want to do?" The question hung there, weighted with possibility. Arielle looked at the file still open on her screen, thinking about territory wars and smuggling networks, and the fact that she was probably the only person with expertise to navigate both sides. "I want to destroy them both," she said quietly. Joon-Seok's silence stretched for 3 heartbeats. Then, "Explain." "Park Dong-min ruined my career. Your family is using me as a pawn. Neither of them sees me as a person, just a tool." Arielle stood pacing. "But I know art smuggling. I know how these networks operate, how pieces are authenticated and moved and sold. What if I could dismantle Park's operation from the inside while making it look like I'm helping your family? That's incredibly dangerous. Everything about this situation is dangerous. At least this way, I'm the one holding the knife." She heard something that might have been a laugh. "You're more ruthless than I expected. I'm a black woman who clawed her way to the top of a white-dominated field, then watched my reputation burn on lies. You learn to be ruthless, or you disappear." Arielle stopped at the window, watching Seoul wake up. "The question is whether you're willing to help me. If I do this, if I help you take down Park's smuggling network, the territory war escalates. People will die." "People are already dying. You said Park hit 2 warehouses. How many of your people were hurt?" 4 injured, 1 dead. "And if this continues the traditional way, with violence and retaliation, how many more?" When he didn't answer, she pressed. "I'm offering a strategic solution. Cut off Park's money supply, expose his operation to international authorities, force him to negotiate from weakness instead of strength." "You've thought about this all night." "I think better when I'm angry." Arielle turned from the window. "I need to know if you're with me, Joon-Seok. Really, with me. Not just protecting me like I'm some fragile thing to be kept safe." The sound of her given name in his deep voice made something in her chest tighten. "If we do this together," he said slowly, "there's no going back. You'll be complicit in everything the Han family does, not just an unwilling participant. That stain doesn't wash off. I'm already stained. Might as well choose my own sins." Another pause, longer this time. Then, "Meet me at the Han building in 2 hours. Conference room 7, not the main one. Come alone, tell no one, not even Min Jae." "Why the secrecy?" "Because what I'm about to show you could get us both killed." The line went dead. Arielle stared at her phone, heart racing. Every rational part of her brain screamed to run, take Joon-Seok's offer of a new identity, and disappear. But rationality had abandoned her somewhere around the 3rd file detailing how Park Dong-min had systematically destroyed her life. She got dressed in clothes Joon-Seok had provided, simple and dark, nothing that would draw attention. The morning was cold, and Seoul's streets were crowded with people heading to work, living normal lives. She wondered what that felt like. The Han building's lobby was busy, but security waved her through without question. The elevator to the 42nd floor felt longer this time, each floor a chance to change her mind. Conference room 7 was tucked in a corner, away from the main executive offices. Joon-Seok stood at the window when she entered, his silhouette dark against the morning light. He'd changed too, wearing black instead of his usual tailored suits. "Lock the door," he said without turning. She did, the click echoing in the quiet room. "This room isn't monitored," Joon-Seok continued. "No cameras, no recording devices. One of the few truly private spaces in the building. You sweep for bugs regularly?" "Daily." He finally faced her, and the exhaustion in his eyes matched her own. "I meant what I said. This conversation could get us killed. Are you sure you want to have it?" Arielle crossed the room until only a few feet separated them. I've never been more sure of anything. Joon-Seok studied her face like he was memorizing it. Then he pulled out his phone, opening an encrypted file. Park Dong-min isn't the real problem, he said. He's a symptom. The actual disease is the network behind him, an international syndicate that moves everything from art to weapons to people. They've been operating for 30 years, and Park is just the sole branch manager. How big is this network? 13 countries. Estimated annual revenue of $8 billion. Joon-Seok's voice was grim. The Han family has been fighting them for territory since before I was born. Sometimes through business competition, sometimes through violence. It's why my father built our security infrastructure. Why we diversified into sectors that could match their reach. Arielle's mind raced. If you expose Park's smuggling operation, the syndicate just replaces him. Exactly. Which is why simple exposure isn't enough. Joon-Seok zoomed in on a photo, showing a middle-aged European man with cold eyes. This is Vincent Laurent, the syndicate's actual leader, based in Geneva, untouchable through layers of legitimate business and political connections. If we want to truly end this war, we need to destroy his entire operation. That's impossible. It was impossible. Until you arrived with expertise in the exact field they use for their primary money laundering. He looked at her intently. Art smuggling is how they move dirty money into clean assets. They steal cultural artifacts, create perfect forgeries, and sell both through legitimate galleries and private collectors. The authentication process is where the magic happens. Understanding dawned cold and clear. You need someone who can identify their forgeries, trace them back through the network, and testify to international authorities. We need someone who has every reason to want revenge on Park Dong-min, specifically, making her motivation believable. Someone whose sudden expertise in helping the Han family seems like a scorned professional proving her worth. Joon-Seok's smile was sharp. We need you to be exactly what my father thinks you are. A tool for legitimizing our art acquisitions, while actually being a weapon aimed at the syndicate's heart. A double game. The most dangerous kind. Arielle should have been terrified. Instead, she felt something like excitement. The first real agency she'd had in months. What's the timeline? Park is planning a major acquisition next month. A collection of stolen Korean artifacts being smuggled through Busan, worth approximately $200 million. If we can intercept that shipment, authenticate the pieces as stolen, and trace them back to the syndicate, we hand Interpol enough evidence to move on to Laurent. And if we fail? Joon-Seok's expression went dark. Then Park consolidates power, the territory war turns bloody, and you become a liability that both sides want eliminated. Comforting. I don't deal in comfort, I deal in reality. He moved closer, and Arielle caught the scent of his cologne, something dark and expensive. This plan requires absolute trust between us. No secrets, no hesitation. If you doubt me at the wrong moment, we both die. Then I guess you shouldn't give me reasons to doubt you. Something flashed in his eyes, almost like approval. I'm going to tell you something only 3 people in the world know. A show of trust, so you understand how serious I am. Arielle's pulse quickened. I'm listening. The woman I loved, the one my father made me abandon, she didn't die in an accident. Joon-Seok's voice went cold as winter. She was killed by the syndicate as a message. They'd learned she was investigating their operations, planning to expose them. My father knew and did nothing because her death removed a distraction from family business. The confession landed like a bomb. Joon-Seok, I've spent 15 years building my reputation as my father's loyal weapon, waiting for the right moment to destroy everything he's protected. His eyes burned. You're not just a tool in a territory war, Arielle. You're the last piece I need to burn it all down. The room felt too small, the air too charged. Arielle processed what he was really saying. You're not protecting the Han Empire. You're planning to dismantle it. After we destroy the syndicate, yes. Both organizations are poison. They both deserve to fall. Joon-Seok's voice dropped. But I need to know if you can live with that. If you help me, you don't get the safe ending where you marry Min-jae and live in luxury. You get chaos and uncertainty and possibly prison time. Or I get justice for what they did to me. Justice is expensive. So is my rage. Arielle met his eyes without flinching. I'm in. Tell me what I need to do. Joon-Seok released a breath, and some of the tension left his shoulders. First, we need to make your role believable. Starting tomorrow, you'll work directly with the Han Group's acquisition team, learning our processes and building your cover. Min-jae will think you're embracing your position. My father will think his plan is working. And Park Dong-min? He'll be watching, waiting for an opportunity to eliminate the threat you represent. Which is why you'll also begin authenticating pieces in our collection, very publicly, very successfully. We let him see you as a valuable asset worth stealing rather than killing. The strategy was elegant and terrifying. You want him to try to turn me. I want him to think he can. When he makes his move, you'll be ready to feed him exactly what we want him to know. Joon-Seok pulled out a slim folder. These are files on the acquisition team. Memorize them. 3 of these people are loyal to my father. 2 report to Min-jae, and 1 is a syndicate informant. Arielle took the folder. You know which one? I have suspicions. You're going to help me confirm them. They spent the next 3 hours going through details, building the framework of their plan. Joon-Seok's mind was sharp and strategic, seeing angles she'd missed. But he also listened when she pointed out flaws, adjusting tactics without ego. Working with him felt like dancing with a blade, dangerous and exhilarating. One more thing, Joon-Seok said as they finished. We need to establish a private communication channel. Your phone is likely monitored, and we can't risk meeting like this regularly without raising suspicion. How do we communicate? He handed her a small device that looked like a USB drive. This is a secure message system, military-grade encryption. Plug it into your laptop, and it creates a virtual network that only we can access. Everything self-destructs after reading. Arielle turned the device over in her hands. You had this ready. I've been planning this operation for 5 years. I was waiting for the right catalyst. His eyes held hers. Then you walked into that engagement announcement looking like you were drowning. And I knew. Knew what? That you were angry enough to be dangerous, smart enough to survive it, and desperate enough to say yes. Joon-Seok's voice softened slightly. Also that if I didn't act, this family would destroy you the same way they destroy everything beautiful. The compliment, unexpected and genuine, made her breath catch. I'm not beautiful. I'm furious. You're both, and that's what makes you perfect for this. The moment stretched between them, charged with things neither could say. Arielle forced herself to step back, to remember this was strategy and survival, not whatever her racing heart wanted to believe. I should go, she said. If I'm gone too long, someone will notice. Joon-Seok nodded, his mask of control sliding back into place. Tomorrow, at 9 in the morning, report to the acquisition department. I'll have briefed them that you're taking an active role in operations. And Min-jae? Leave him to me. She headed for the door, but his voice stopped her one more time. Arielle, there's something you should know about what we're doing. She turned. What? If we succeed, if we actually take down both the syndicate and the Han family's criminal operations, a lot of people lose their livelihoods. Not just the criminals, but the legitimate employees who depend on these companies. There will be collateral damage. I know. And you're still willing? Arielle thought about the forged painting that destroyed her career, about Park Dong-min's trafficking networks, about Joon-Seok's dead lover, and every person trapped in this system. Some structures need to burn so something better can grow. I'm willing. His smile was sad and proud at once. Then welcome to the war. She left before her resolve could waver, taking the stairs instead of the elevator to clear her head. 17 floors down, her legs burning, Arielle finally let herself feel the weight of what she'd agreed to. She was going to infiltrate a criminal syndicate, expose international smuggling operations, and help dismantle 2 criminal organizations from the inside. Any one of those things could get her killed. But she'd meant what she told Joon-Seok. She was done being a victim, done being used. If she was going to be a weapon, she'd aim herself. Her phone buzzed as she reached the lobby. Min-jae's name lit the screen. We need to talk. My apartment tonight at 8. It's important. Arielle typed back an agreement, wondering what new crisis was emerging. The lies were already stacking up, layer upon layer. She was engaged to one man while planning treason with his uncle. The thought should have filled her with guilt. Instead, she felt alive for the first time in months. The day passed in preparation. Arielle studied the files Joon-Seok had given her, memorizing names and faces and allegiances. The suspected syndicate informant was a woman named Kim Heir, 38, with an impeccable record in art acquisition. On paper, she was perfect. But Joon-Seok had noted a private gambling problem and a brother with syndicate connections. Vulnerabilities, Arielle thought. Everyone had them. At 8 precisely, she arrived at Min-jae's penthouse in Cheongdam-dong. The space was modern and cold, all sharp angles and expensive furniture that looked unused. He answered the door in casual clothes, which somehow made him look more tense. "Thank you for coming," he said, gesturing her inside. "I wasn't sure you would after our last conversation. You said it was important." "It is." Min-jae poured 2 glasses of wine, handing her one. "I've been thinking about what I told you, about the territory war and your role in it. I was too blunt, too harsh." Arielle sipped the wine, watching him carefully. "You were honest. I appreciate that more than comfort. Still, I should have found a better way." He sat across from her, his expression troubled. "The truth is, I never wanted this engagement. Not because of you, but because I knew what it would cost. My father sees people as chess pieces, and I've watched him sacrifice too many for strategy." "Including you?" Min-jae's laugh was bitter. "Especially me. I'm the heir, the face of the company, but I have no real power. That belongs to my uncle, Joon-Seok. He's the one who actually runs everything that matters. The security operations, the strategic planning, the difficult decisions my father won't make anymore." Min-jae leaned forward. "I'm telling you this because I want you to understand the family you're marrying into. Joon-Seok is brilliant and ruthless, and he never does anything without 3 backup plans." Arielle kept her expression neutral. Why are you warning me about him? Because I've seen the way he looks at you, and it's not how he looks at anyone else. Min-jae's eyes were serious. My uncle has been emotionally dead since the woman he loved died 15 years ago. He's all strategy and control, no feeling. But when you're in the room, something changes. It's subtle, but I notice. Her heart hammered, but she forced herself to scoff. You're imagining things. He barely speaks to me. He doesn't speak to anyone unless necessary. With you, he finds reasons. Min-jae stood, pacing. Look, I don't care if there's attraction there. This engagement is business, and what you do privately is your concern. But Arielle, if you get involved with Joon-Seok, you need to understand what that means. Which is that you'll never be free of this family. He's loyal to the empire above everything, even himself. If you become something he cares about, he'll protect you absolutely. But he'll also trap you completely. Min-jae's voice was gentle, almost pitying. I'm in this cage because I was born into it. You still have a chance to just play the role and keep your heart separate. Don't give it to someone who'll sacrifice you the moment the empire demands it. The warning should have landed, but Arielle already knew the truth. Joon-Seok wasn't protecting the empire. He was planning to destroy it, and she was helping him. I appreciate your concern, she said carefully. But I'm not in danger of falling for anyone. I'm here to survive and rebuild my career. That's all. Min-jae studied her, then nodded. Good. Keep it that way. They talked for another hour about logistics and upcoming events. The conversation was easier without romantic pretense. Min-jae was actually pleasant when he dropped the Heir performance, almost a friend. Arielle left his apartment with a new understanding. Min-jae was trapped just like she'd been, playing a role in a system he didn't control. The difference was that he'd accepted his cage. She was planning to break hers. Her phone buzzed as she reached her car. The secure messaging system Joon-Seok had given her. The first encrypted message was glowing on her screen. How was dinner with my nephew? She typed back, Interesting. He warned me about you. Smart man, did you listen? Arielle hesitated, then typed the truth. Not even a little. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, that makes you either very brave or very foolish. Maybe both. Definitely both. A pause, then. Get some sleep. Tomorrow starts your real education. She drove back to her apartment, hyper-aware of her surroundings in a way she'd never been before. Every car could be a tale. Every pedestrian could be a threat. Park Dongmin's people were out there, watching, waiting for an opportunity. Let them watch, she thought. Let them see a woman embracing her role in the Han family. By the time they realized her true purpose, it would be too late. Sleep came surprisingly easy, and Arielle dreamed of burning empires and the dark-eyed man who'd handed her the match. Want to see how Arielle's first day in the lion's den unfolds? Keep listening. The Han Group's acquisition department occupied the 38th floor, a space that managed to be both elegant and ruthlessly efficient. Arielle arrived at 9 exactly, wearing a tailored suit that projected confidence she half felt. A young man greeted her with a bow. Miss Thompson, welcome. I'm Park Jin-woo, department coordinator. Mr. Han Joon-Seok informed us you'd be joining our operations. Not Min-jae, she noticed. Joon-Seok had made sure everyone knew this came from him. Jin-woo led her through the department, introducing her to the team. She recognized faces from the files she'd memorized. Lee Sang-min is loyal to the chairman. Oh Ji-woo reports to Min-jae. And there, at a desk near the window, was Kim Hae-ri. the suspected syndicate informant. Heir stood when introduced, her smile professional. Miss Thompson, your reputation precedes you. Even with the unfortunate scandal, your authentication record is impressive. The dig was subtle but deliberate. Arielle smiled back just as sharply. Thank you. I'm looking forward to proving myself again with pieces that are actually genuine. A flicker of something, respect maybe, crossed Heir's face. I'm sure you'll find our collection beyond reproach. The tour continued, showing her workspace and current projects. The Faust Han Group was in the middle of authenticating a collection of Joseon dynasty paintings, preparing for a private auction. Legitimate work on the surface. Your primary role, Jin Woo explained, will be authenticating new acquisitions and consulting on strategic purchases. Mr. Han wants to expand our cultural artifacts division significantly. Translation. They were positioning to compete directly with Park Dong-min's smuggling operation. Arielle spent the morning reviewing current inventory, using her expertise to note irregularities. 2 pieces were questionable, possibly forgeries. She flagged them quietly, watching who reacted. Heir noticed first, appearing at her shoulder. You found something? Possibly. These brushstroke patterns are inconsistent with the attributed period. Arielle pulled up magnified images. See here, the pigment degradation doesn't match the canvas aging. I authenticated those pieces personally. Heir's voice was cool. Then perhaps we should double-check together. I could be wrong. The moment hung delicate and dangerous. Then Heir smiled. Of course. I'd welcome a second expert opinion. They spent 2 hours analyzing the paintings, and Arielle had to admit Heir knew her craft. But there was something off in how she defended the pieces, too invested in proving them genuine. You're right, Heir finally admitted. These are exceptional forgeries, but forgeries nonetheless. I should have caught it. They're good enough to fool most people. Don't be hard on yourself. Where do you think they originated? The question felt loaded. Arielle shrugged. Hard to say without provenance documentation. Could be any number of forgery workshops. Eastern Europe has several sophisticated operations. She watched Heir absorb this, filing it away. Testing me, Arielle realized, seeing what I know about international smuggling networks. Lunch came, and Jin Woo invited her to join the team at a nearby restaurant. Over hainanti sui, bulgogi, and soju. The professional masks relaxed slightly. Sang-min talked about his family. Ji-woo complained about a difficult authentication. Heir watched Arielle with calculating eyes. So, Heir said as they walked back, how are you finding Seoul? It must be quite different from New York. It's an adjustment, Arielle admitted, but I'm learning. And the engagement to Min-jae? That's also an adjustment, I imagine. The probing was obvious now. We have an understanding. This is as much business as personal. How modern. Heir's smile didn't reach her eyes. Not everyone would be comfortable with such an arrangement. I'm comfortable with honesty. It's the lies that destroy you. The irony of saying that while lying about everything wasn't lost on Arielle, but Heir seemed to accept it. The afternoon brought a surprise. Joon-Seok appeared in the department at 4, his presence immediately changing the atmosphere. Everyone straightened, worked harder, and projected competence. Miss Thompson, he said formally. A moment, please. She followed him to a private office, aware of every eye tracking them. Inside, with the door closed, his expression shifted slightly. How was day 1? Productive. I found 2 forgeries in your collection. His eyebrow rose. Already? I'm good at my job. Arielle pulled up the images on her tablet. Heir authenticated them originally. She seemed surprised but not defensive when I proved they were fake. Interesting. Joon-Seok studied the paintings. These came through a Busan acquisition 3 months ago. Same time frame as Park's expansion attempts. You think he planted them deliberately? I think he's testing our authentication capabilities, seeing if we catch his forgeries. Joon-Seok's smile was predatory. Which means your expertise is already disrupting his plans. He'll notice. That's the idea, isn't it? Yes, but be prepared. When Park notices, he'll escalate. Joon-Seok moved, closer, his voice dropping. I'm assigning you a security detail. Don't argue, it's non-negotiable. Arielle bristled. I don't need a bodyguard. You need to survive long enough to finish what we started. Pride is expensive when you're dead. His eyes held hers. Let me protect you in the ways that matter. The phrasing made her pulse quicken. And what ways don't matter? I won't protect you from choices or consequences or your own decisions. But I will make sure you live long enough to face them. His hand lifted, almost touching her face, then dropped. Please, Arielle. This is one battle I'm asking you not to fight. The please did it. She nodded. Fine. But they stay invisible. I won't be watched every second. Invisible I can do. Joon-Seok stepped back, professional distance restored. Good work today. Keep pushing. Keep finding the cracks in our armor. Every weakness you expose is one Park can't exploit. She left his office feeling unsettled, that almost touch haunting her. Minja's warning echoed in her mind, but she pushed it aside. This was a strategy, not romance. Survival, not feeling. She almost believed it. Will Arielle's growing connection to Joon-Seok destroy their carefully laid plans? Don't go anywhere. The security detail materialized the next morning in the form of a quiet woman named Choi Soon-hee, who claimed to be Arielle's new assistant. She was efficient, unobtrusive, and had the kind of awareness that came from military training. How long have you worked for Joon-Seok? Arielle asked. Sun-hee didn't even blink at the familiar name usage. 8 years. He pulled me out of a bad situation and gave me purpose. He's a good man to have on your side, Miss Thompson. The week settled into a rhythm. Arielle worked in acquisitions during the day, finding questionable pieces in the Han collection. At night, she communicated with Joon-Seok through the encrypted system, their messages developing an intimacy that shouldn't have been possible through text. Heir asked about my authentication methods today. Very specific questions. She's reporting back to someone. Did you give her real information? Enough truth to seem credible, enough misdirection to be useless. A pause, then his message came through. I don't want you to have to lie to me. Arielle stared at her screen before responding. Then don't give me reasons to. What if my reasons are to protect you? I'd rather have painful truth than comfortable deception. Even if the truth is that I think about you more than I should. Her breath caught. She typed carefully. Define should. You're engaged to my nephew. You're the key piece in an operation that could destroy everything. You deserve better than a man who's forgotten how to feel anything beyond strategy. Should means all of that matters more than what I want. And what do you want? Finally, his response came. To hear you say my name the way you did in the car. Like I'm a person, not a weapon. Arielle's hands shook as she typed. Joon-Seok, you're the first person in a year who's seen me as something other than a scandal or a tool. That matters more than any logical reason. It shouldn't. No response came that night. She lay awake, wondering if she'd crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. Morning brought crisis. Arielle arrived at the office to find Jin-woo pale and shaken. "Break-in last night at our Busan warehouse," he said. 50 pieces stolen, worth over $30 million. When Joon-Seok arrived, his face was carved from ice. 10 minutes later, Arielle's phone buzzed. "My office, now." This was Park, he said without preamble. "A direct attack." Arielle thought quickly. What if we use this? If Park tries to recruit me, I can feed him false information while learning his network. That paints a target on you. I'm already a target. This way, I control the approach. She moved closer. "You said you wouldn't protect me from my own choices. This is my choice." His hand covered hers, warm and rough. "If something happens to you because I allowed this, if we do this, we do it carefully. At the first sign of actual danger, you're out." Agreed. The planning meeting with the patriarch was tense. Arielle played the uncomfortable fiancé perfectly. When the talk turned to violent retaliation, she let distress show. "Maybe Arielle shouldn't be here for this discussion," Min-jae said. "This isn't her world." Perfect opening. "I just didn't realize how violent this could get," she said quietly. The patriarch dismissed her, and she left, playing overwhelmed. In the hallway, soon he guided her to the rooftop garden. She didn't notice the man approaching until he was 3 feet away. "Beautiful view," he said in accented English. Arielle turned. Park Dong-min stood there, expensive suit and with cold eyes. Behind him, 2 guards waited. "I simply wanted to introduce myself," he said, offering a business card. Park Dong-min. Every instinct screamed danger, but Arielle took the card. "Mr. Park, your reputation precedes you." "As does yours. Such a waste, a talent like yours destroyed over 1 authentication error." His sympathy was utterly false. "And then to end up here, trapped in a world you clearly find distressing." She let her anger show. "My relationship with Min-jae is none of your business." "Of course not. I simply wanted to suggest that there are other opportunities available." He pulled out another card with just a phone number. "If you ever want to discuss your options, call me. No obligations." After he left, Sun-hee spoke quietly. "How did he get into this building?" They reported it immediately. The security sweep revealed Kim Hae-ri had authorized Park's entry. When confronted, she admitted to taking money to provide information about Arielle. Joon-Seok gave her a choice: work as their double agent, feeding Park-controlled information, or face prison. Hae-ri chose survival. That night, encrypted messages flew between Arielle and Joon-Seok. "Park will make contact soon. Are you ready?" "As ready as I'll ever be. But Joon-Seok, this is getting dangerous." "I know. Which is why I need you to understand something." Arielle waited, watching the typing indicator. 15 years ago, I lost someone I loved because I wasn't ruthless enough to protect her. Her name was Seo-yeon. Park had her killed. The messages came faster. "She died because I wasn't willing to burn everything down. I won't make that mistake again." Her heart pounded. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying you've become something I can't afford, and I'm keeping you anyway. I'm saying if Park even thinks about hurting you, I will destroy him and everything he loves." She typed with shaking hands. "This is a really bad idea. The worst I've ever had. We should maintain professional distance." "Absolutely." Arielle took a breath, then typed what her heart demanded. When this is over, when we've destroyed both organizations and I'm finally free, ask me then. Ask you what? If I want to find out who we are without the masks, together. That's the best motivation I've ever had to survive something. Don't change your mind. Don't give me reasons to. 3 days later, Park made his move. His car pulled alongside her as she left the building. "Miss Thompson, can I offer you a ride?" This was it. Arielle looked at Sun-hee, then got in Park's car. He drove to a private parking garage, going down several levels until they were alone. "I can offer you 3 times what the Han family pays," he said. "Plus, clear your name publicly. And in exchange, authenticate my acquisitions, cut ties with the Hains." Park leaned forward. "I'm offering you freedom, not the gilded cage Min-jae promised." She let herself look tempted. "I need time to think." "Of course. But time is limited. In 3 days, I'm moving a major shipment. $200 million. Busan Docks, Pier 7, midnight departure." Park's eyes were hard. "That shipment is my message to the Hans. If you're still associated with them when it moves, you become part of that message." Arielle left shaking. She went straight to Joon-Seok's apartment. "He gave me everything," she said. "Location, time, shipment value." Joon-Seok pulled her close. "You were incredible. This is our chance to take down the entire syndicate." They spent hours planning. Maps covered the table, contingency plans stacking up. Finally, exhausted, they sat together in the quiet. "After this is over," Joon-Seok said quietly, "I'm taking you somewhere far from Seoul. Somewhere you can just be Arielle, not a weapon or a tool." "What is it you feel?" she whispered. His hand cupped her face. "The first real thing I've felt in 15 years. Before she could respond, his phone buzzed. The patriarch had called an emergency meeting. Someone leaked that Arielle attended Park's auction. At the estate, the patriarch was cold and suspicious. "You attended Park's private auction without informing the family? Explain." "Intelligence gathering," Arielle said calmly. "Park has been trying to recruit me. I saw an opportunity to learn about his operations." "And you expect me to believe you're not actually considering his offer?" She met his eyes without flinching. "I want Park Dong-min destroyed more than you do. He destroyed my career, made me desperate. Now he thinks I'm stupid enough to work for him willingly. I don't care about your empire, but I care about making Park pay. If using your resources gets me that revenge, I'll use them." The patriarch studied her, then nodded. "Revenge, I understand. Continue contact with Park. But if you betray this family, there's nowhere you can hide." Outside, Min-jae caught her arm. That was either very brave or very stupid. Probably both. The next 72 hours were intense preparation. Joon-Seok assembled his team. Arielle called Park and accepted his offer, suggesting she authenticate pieces before loading to ensure buyer satisfaction. The night before the operation, she met Joon-Seok in the safe house one last time. "At the first sign of real danger, you signal for extraction," he said urgently. "Promise me." "I promise." She touched his face. "Don't make promises we might not survive to keep." "Then we'd better survive." He kissed her then, deep and desperate, like he was trying to pour 15 years of loneliness into one moment. When they broke apart, he rested his forehead against hers. "After tomorrow, I'm done pretending this doesn't matter." "Good. Because I'm tired of pretending too." The Busan docks at night were industrial and eerie. Arielle presented credentials at security checkpoints, her heart pounding. Inside the warehouse, Park greeted her warmly. "Thank you for coming. Let me show you what we need to be authenticated." She spent 2 hours examining pieces, observing everything. Guard positions, security protocols, and where Park kept files. She spotted a locked office on the second level. "Is there somewhere I can review my notes?" she asked. Park gestured upward. "Use my private office." Inside, Sun-hee bypassed the computer security. Arielle accessed files detailing 15 years of smuggling operations, shipment manifests, buyer contacts, and financial records connecting Park to the Geneva syndicate. They copied frantically for 20 minutes. Then footsteps echoed on the stairs. Sun-hee yanked the drive free just as Park entered. His eyes were sharp, assessing. "Finding everything you need?" "Yes, the databases confirmed my assessments," Arielle said steadily. Park moved closer. "I think you're very good at seeing exactly what you want people to see. The question is what you're hiding underneath." "I'm hiding the parts of myself I had to destroy to survive," Arielle said quietly. "You did that when you destroyed my career." The Hans reinforced it. "I'm not that person anymore. I'm whoever I need to be to protect myself." Park studied her, then nodded. "Survival requires adaptability. Come, loading is about to begin." Arielle touched her watch, activating the silent alarm. The signal went out to Joon-Seok's team. Now they just had to survive 15 minutes. At 2 a.m. exactly, the warehouse doors burst open. Joon-Seok's team moved with military precision. Within 90 seconds, every armed guard was disarmed. Park stood frozen as Joon-Seok approached. "Park Dong-min, you're under arrest for smuggling and trafficking stolen artifacts. You have no authority here." "I don't. But she does." An Interpol agent entered. "Thank you for the extensive documentation connecting you to Vincent Laurent and the Geneva operation." Park looked at Arielle, understanding dawning. This whole time I was the weapon you created," Arielle said quietly. "You just aimed me at the wrong target." Hours of statements and evidence processing followed. By dawn, they were cleared to leave. Joon-Seok drove her back to Seoul in exhausted silence. At her apartment, he followed her inside. "I know I should leave, let you rest," he said quietly. "But I can't." "Stay," she said simply. They collapsed together on her couch, and he held her like something infinitely precious. "What happens now?" Arielle asked. "Now the syndicate implodes. Park will spend life in prison. The territory war is over." He tilted her face up. "I'm done being the weapon my father created. Time to be something else." "What do you want to be?" "I want to be the man who deserves you. I want to wake up somewhere quiet and make coffee instead of war." "That sounds perfect." He kissed her, slow and deep and full of promise. "Tell me about Jeju Island," she said softly. "There's a village on the southern coast. I own a house there. Bought it years ago as an escape I never used. 2 bedrooms, ocean view, overgrown garden." He traced patterns on her arm. "When the legal proceedings settle, we disappear there. Just us, the ocean, and time to figure out who we are. I want to paint again. I lost the joy of it when art became just my career. I want to learn to cook, maybe take up fishing." They fell asleep tangled together, safe and victorious and free. The next weeks brought chaos. Interpol's raids made international news. The syndicate collapsed. The Han family faced scrutiny, but Joon-Seok had been methodical. Those responsible were prosecuted, and legitimate operations continued under Min Jae's leadership. Min Jae dissolved Arielle's engagement contract. "You're free," he said. "Take care of my uncle." He deserves to be what he wants, not what others need. 6 weeks after the raid, Arielle and Joon-Seok stood before a small house on Jeju Island's southern coast, weathered and beautiful with an overgrown garden and a perfect ocean view. Home, Joon-Seok said quietly. Home, Arielle agreed. They spent the first week cleaning, clearing years of neglect. No phones, no internet, no connection to the life they'd left behind. Just work, conversation, and learning from each other without masks. One evening, watching the sunset paint the ocean gold, Joon-Seok took her hand. "I love you," he said simply. "I know it's soon, but I love you, and I wanted you to know." "I love you too. Have for weeks, maybe since that first encrypted message." Arielle smiled. "That's when I knew you saw me as a person worth protecting, not a pawn worth using." He pulled her close. "What do you want to do tomorrow?" "Sleep late, make breakfast, maybe start clearing that garden." She leaned against him. "Nothing dramatic, nothing strategic. Just life." "Just life," Joon-Seok agreed. "I think we've earned that." As stars emerged over the ocean and night settled warm around them, Arielle realized she'd found something she thought was lost forever. Not just love or safety, or peace. She'd found herself again, the person she was before scandal and survival and strategic masks. And she'd found someone who loved that person without condition or agenda. The war was over. The future was uncertain. But for the first time in years, Arielle Thompson wasn't afraid. She was free. She was loved. And she was finally beautifully home.